Hello everybody, welcome back to the Traxion YouTube channel and welcome back to week 3 of my Fanatec GT3 Challenge track guide series in the Porsche 911 GT3 R. This week we're at the beautiful Brands Hatch, which is much trickier than people give it credit for. So if you've seen my track guides before, you will know that they are not a place for hot laps. This is a slow methodical approach to learn the circuit. I'll talk about what I use as my braking markers and my reference points. We'll talk about the quirks that each circuit has. So at any point during this video, if you do find this guide useful, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button and also consider subscribing if you haven't already. So as usual, we'll play a flying lap first of all, and then we'll jump in the car, have a drive round, slowly pick up the pace and talk about my braking markers, reference points and showing you those in action. So here we are then on the start-finish straight here at Brands Hatch. I've set the session time to match the official series, and brake bias I'm using 52.5. There's a lot of trail braking here at Brands Hatch, so I can't see the benefits of going below 52.5. I have tried it. It is a little bit sketchy on turning because there is quite a lot of trail braking here at Brands Hatch. There's no real heavy braking zones. So iRacing's default with the medium downforce sprint is 54. I'm using 52.5. If you find that it's over rotating on corner entry, just dial that number up until you're happy with how it's turning in. So Brands Hatch, it's a really tricky circuit, really difficult, especially in GT cars. And it's all about the flow, especially the back section. It's all about being really smooth with your throttle input, your steering, and letting the car flow through the corners. So, as always, we'll just slowly pick up the pace. We'll talk about what I think makes a safe lap around Brands Hatch. And that's what it's going to have to be this week in the Porsche because it is a little bit sketchy. So, turn 1. So we're approaching it on the left-hand side. It's blind really where you need to be braking. Well, I like to get the car nice and settled. So we're looking for the 100 board. So just before the 100 board, we're going to be braking and in a straight line, nice and smooth, down into 4th gear. And just as we're going to turn in, we're going to go down into 3rd gear and then apex this. Just off the brakes, letting the car coast in, but as soon as you get to this point, you can get on the gas and you can use all of this on exit. And then the run up to turn 2. Now you can use the bridge, the shadow, the 50 board, whatever. So that's just before there is where we're going to be braking. I like to approach it from the left hand side and apex this one quite late. You can use 1st or 2nd gear, it doesn't really matter. But we want to be apexing this one quite late and then get on the gas around about this point and let the car run all the way out wide. There's some mesh on most of the corners. There's some mesh that you can actually run over at Brands Hatch. Move the car over to the right-hand side. And then just before where this mesh starts on the right-hand side there, you can see it. That's going to be our braking marker. I would rather brake a little bit earlier here and get a good exit than rush it and then lose a little bit of control on entry. So brake nice and early, get the car settled. Second or third gear for this one, it's entirely up to you. Second gear, it does wheel spin a little bit, but third gear is nice and stable. And then let the car run all the way out wide on this mesh here, and you won't get an off track. So your full car is off the circuit there, but just get it back on before the grass. And then the run up to this tricky turn here. Now this one is all about the exit. Entry, not really important, all about the exit. So the braking marker is the 50 board or thereabouts, and we're going to be braking down into third gear at this point. And if you're stuck with what line to take, just follow this rubbered line around the circuit. And what we want to be doing is apexing this one really late. So follow this rubbered line. So we're in third gear, then we're going to be changing down to second. And then just off the throttle, let the car come back. And then here, this is where we want to be apexing really late. And getting a good run out down this straight. Now, there's not that many overtaking opportunities here at Brands Hatch. So you've kind of got to start setting them up from this point. But when we build up the pace, I'll talk about what I mean there. So here for this one, fast right-hand corner. Again, you've got to have the car nice and settled. This is where a lot of people push a little bit too much here at Brands Hatch, this back section. And yes, you can gain a lot of time if you're brave. But if you're just nice and consistent around here, you're never going to make any moves on here, but you can certainly start to set them up. So here, we're going to be in fifth gear at this point. Just round about the 50, we're going to be braking and going down into fourth gear. Just holding the brakes a little bit, and then let the car just coast into the apex, maybe a tiny bit of trail brake. Fourth gear, then when you get to the apex here, then you get on the gas. The car will run wide, but here you notice the curb's not too bad there, it's quite wide, but you've got to watch. The curb disappears, so you've got to make sure that you don't go too wide at that point. And then for the tricky section, those that are brave will gain lots of time through here. So this is pretty much blind where you need to be in the second right, especially after this one. But we're going to be braking after the 100, and we're going to be braking in a nice straight line with fourth gear at this point. And then we're going to be braking in a nice straight line, then down into third gear, and then you're going to cut this corner nice and smooth with your throttle, let the car run out wide onto this mesh, and then get it back on there. So you've got to be nice and smooth, just let the car roll round. Same with this one. So back up to fourth gear after the 100, braking down into third is blind, but you can cut this one loads there, you can cut it by a mile, and then get the car back over to the right. So just before the 50, we're going to be braking down into second, nice and tight, because this here is banked, it's nice and cambered. So here you can get on the gas as soon as you're on the apex, so just before. Accelerate, get on the gas there. This is where you will start to set up an overtake from this point, going into turn 2. So accelerate down to the final corner. So after the 100, so just before the 50, round about here. I'll stop there. So round about here, we're going to be braking down into third gear. It's a funny corner, this one, because you always think you're going to run wide. So third gear, trail brake to the apex, and then as soon as you hear when the curb goes to that singular curb there, you can get on the accelerator. The car will push wide and you'll think, oh no, I'm going to go off. But then here, the track dips and there's loads and loads of grip there, and then it pulls it back round. So then over to the right, make the circuit as short as you possibly can. Back up to turn 1. So we're looking for the 100 board. There it is, nice and smooth on the brakes. Down into third. Then accelerate on the apex. Here the car loads up, loads of grip. So at the bridge, or just before the 50, second or first gear, it's up to you, but just be patient on the accelerator. Accelerate, use the mesh on the exit. Up to third, brake nice and early for this one. Second or third for that one, doesn't really matter, use all of that mesh. Then we're braking at the 50. We're going to be down into third gear, follow this rubbered line, down to second, apex late, then get on the gas. Because whatever you carry through there, you're going to carry all the way down here. Then just before the 50, we're going to be braking. Down to 4th. Let the car just coast to the apex. Let it run out wide. Just after the 100. Down to the 3rd gear. Nice and smooth. Let the car just roll around here. Not really making any sudden moves with the throttle or the steering. Same here, just nice and smooth. Let the car run through. You've got to be careful there. When you go around that right hand there, you've got to keep turning right because you need to get the car over onto the right hand side of the circuit for this left. So then here at the 50, we're going to be braking down into 2nd gear, nice and tight. Then on the apex, we're going to be accelerating. And down to the final turn. So after the 100, just before the 50, we're going to be braking down into 3rd. Accelerate from this point. The car will run wide, but then it grips at the last moment. Gives me a heart attack every single time. So try and pick up the pace a little bit now. So looking for the 100, nice and smooth, down to 3rd gear. On the apex, accelerate. If you hit a bit of curb, doesn't really matter. So just before the 50, we're going to be braking. Show you what 1st gear looks like. Let the car go wide on the exit. Get the car over to the right, just before the mesh. Brake, down to 2nd. There's an apex there somewhere. Up to 4th, just after the 50, brake, down to 3rd, down to 2nd, late apex, get on the gas. The car will understeer there, so you've got to apex that as late as you possibly can. It's just a little bit too much traction control with this setup. So just before the 50, we're going to be braking, down to 4th, let the car hit the apex. See, he was a little bit light there, just moved around a little bit, so just before the 50, brake, let the car roll round, accelerate. Keep accelerating. Again, just after the 100, just before the 50. We're turning in before you can see that one. Then just before the 50, down to 2nd gear, nice and tight. And then you're on the gas really early. Right, we'll do one more lap. So just before the 50, down to 3rd gear. Get on the gas early. There, it's running wide. No, it isn't. Gets me every time. So just as we crest the hill, we're going to be braking in a straight line, get it all done, get nice and settled. On the gas at the apex, let the car run wide. And just before the 50, get on the brakes. Be patient on the gas coming out of this one. Move the car over to the right, just before the mesh, braking. And accelerate, use all of this on the exit. There we go. Just after the 50, braking, down to 3rd. Down to 2nd, be patient with the gas, good exit, then we can carry that all the way down here. So we're looking for the 50 board on the left, we'll be shifting down to 4th, nice and smooth. On the apex then you can accelerate, again watch that curb going short there, that's a really skinny curb on exit. And just after the 100, nice and smooth. Keep turning right because we want the car over to the right. So just before the 50, down 2 gears, accelerate on the apex. There we go. Again, just before the 50, braking down to 3rd, accelerate. Your thing is going to run wide, but then it grips. And there we go. So this isn't going to be a blistering lap. 23.1, yeah, so that's a nice steady lap around Brands Hatch. I think that's not going to be too far off, to be honest, in the top split. They're going to be low to mid 22s. Again, I wasn't pushing there really. That was nice and smooth. You saw in the flying lap, I think that was a mid 22. I was pushing a little bit more there, but there was still a little bit more that you can get out of the car. But it's all about risk and reward, isn't it? So you've got to be very careful. It's going to be a difficult week this week here at Brands Hatch in the Porsche. So there we go. That's Brands Hatch done. It's going to be a really tricky week, this one. There's not many places to overtake at Brands Hatch. I alluded to setting up an overtake early in the video, and that's the second to last corner. If you can get a run out of there, the guy that you're trying to overtake, his line will be compromised into the last corner. And then again, going into turn 1. So what you need to do is you need to time your run right and get a wide line into turn 1 and go for the overtake into turn 2. I think that's probably where you're going to find most of the overtakes, but you've got to set it up 3 corners earlier. So that's my tip. Turn 2, for the overtakes. So as I mentioned at the beginning, if you did like this video, please click on the like button. Let me know in the comments what you think. If there's something that I haven't covered that you want covered, please let me know. I do read the comments, so I will answer them when I see them. So thanks for watching. Have a great week. Good luck. See you later. Cheers.